young Earth creationism? Are you versus old Earth creationism? I'm not sure which one you are. Or do you believe that the Earth is over 10,000 years old or less than?
I don't think that we can. I don't think that we can know for certain. It comes. Well, here's the deal. It comes down to this word yom. It's the Hebrew word for day, and it goes back into this. It could be a day, it could be an age, it could be 24 hours. It could be, there's room for it. The problem is that none of us know really how old this Earth is, or really even how old the universe is. I mean, we take our best guesses, but even with our modern day science. In fact, I tell you, one of my coworkers at Watchman, he'd be a real good guy to talk to about this issue, because this is more of his field. In essence, we're trying to measure. It's like trying to measure Dallas, Texas, with a ruler, or a yardstick.
I really like it. I have to applaud you when you said none of us really knows how old the Earth is. I think that that's a fair statement, and I think that's worth pointing out, because a lot of people tell me that they do know, and they tell me that they know from the Bible. So if you're willing to concede that you don't know exactly how old the Earth is based on the Bible, then I'm willing to concede that I don't know exactly how old the Earth is.
It's and like, some Christians will try to use Usher, and I think, golly, it was like 1624 or something. I don't know. But the problem is we I say we know, we're rather certain that there are gaps in those genealogies, and so and who's the? I mean, there's a lot of problems in trying to say. I mean, like, I definitely would say. It's definitely has to be at least a little bit older than like 6,000 years. I mean, just because we know there's gaps in. I mean, even if Usher was on the right track, we know he's got to be off by a little bit at least. And so
the Bible, because I don't want to get too far into younger. It sounds like we are in agreement.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
we don't really know for sure. So you're not saying that the Bible suggests that the Earth is young. Is, I guess, what I was trying to get at.
No, I definitely think that there's a way that, if you want to interpret Yom as a 24-hour day because it uses day and night within those Hebrew verses, then I think that it would point to a younger Earth. But there's nothing in the Bible we're not going to find created on such and such date in the Bible. I don't think that we get that at all. Not that exactitude.
I would agree with you that if we looked at the Bible, we are more likely to arrive at the conclusion that the Earth is young, because that's the conclusion that I arrived at when I read it. Unfortunately, that contradicts known science, which is one of the reasons why I either have to force an old Earth interpretation onto the Bible or throw it out. Kind of like I have to either force the local flood presentation in order to be consistent with the evidence that we see, or throw it out. But that's two things that could be interpreted either way. What about the supernatural claims in the Bible? Because I have to say, there's a lot of magic and magical things going on. There's animals, there's resurrections, there's all kinds of things that don't really seem to conform to reality as we observe it today. Going, from the beginning of going back to the Garden of Eden all the way to the end. And so how do you, what causes you to believe that anything supernatural ever happened?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, if this universe came into existence the way that scientists tell us, then there has to be something supernatural, first and foremost. There has to be.
I would disagree with that. I'm going to let you finish your thought. After making this point, I think I reject the premise. Even just the phrasing, if the universe came into existence, because that's adding in, that's kind of shoehorning in this idea that the universe did come into existence. Define for me what you mean when you say universe, and then continue your thought.
I'll listen, I understand that there are some who still hold to some version of a steady state model, but from what I understand, that is on the that's more of a minority view in the scientific field, this universe that we know is what I would be. Now, some people would say, well, what if there are other universes? Okay, well, like a multiverse. Okay, well, I mean, you could, that could be the case, but the problem is, I mean, we haven't discovered it. I mean, it's almost like
maybe this would help. When you say, when you are using the word universe, are you referring to our local presentation of the universe, the observable universe that we know exists, and
that would probably
be or are you referring to anything and everything that has ever existed at any time, the entire cosmos, whatever that may be?
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a hard question in terms of I mean, as far as we know that this is all that there ever has been.
Well, the reason I asked the question because in cosmology, in cosmological science, when they refer to the universe, they're talking about the local presentation, which is that which we can identify going back to a few microseconds after the Big Bang, right?
Sure.
And so they're not talking about anything which may predate that. They're not talking about anything which may be outside of that, which could include other universes or anything like that.
Exactly.
And what I find is that sometimes people, when they use the word universe and they start evoking science, they could be talking about it in that sense. But then other times they're talking about the entirety of all existence, including things which may be beyond that. And so it kind of ends up moving the goalpost, or it's an equivocation fallacy because they're using two different
exactly. Yeah, and that's my problem for trying to go beyond what we can see, because at that point, I mean, to say it's an argument from silence is like a major understatement, because all we can know is in essence, all we can know about the universe. I mean, we can't see we have no evidence or anything. If there was another universe, we haven't been able to see another universe. I mean, the speculation of a multiverse. But anyway, all right. So we'll set that one to the side for a minute. But let me just kind of paint this picture here for a moment. If there is a God who created everything, and I understand that's a big if for somebody who's not a believer. If there is a God, is it a far stretch of imagination that on one occasion he could make a donkey speak, or on one occasion he could make a serpent speak, on one occasion he could make an axe head float?
So this is getting into kind of a tautology, because if we want to hypothesize that there is a supernatural God, well then sure, he could do anything supernatural because we've defined him as supernatural, right? If we say, if magic is real, could I do a magic trick? Well, obviously, yes, right? But the question is, did any magic tricks ever actually get done? And do we have any reason to believe that they did, to conclude that there is magic? So that's kind of how
I wouldn't say magic. I
was using that as an example, as an analogy to kind of see how I was translating your thought process, because you asked me, if there is a God, could he make a donkey speak? If you are saying that the act of a donkey speaking is supernatural, and we are presupposing a supernatural God, well then of course.
But see, that goes back to, what I was hinting to earlier in the whole cosmological argument. If this is all that there ever has been, and who knows if there was something before it? I don't even know how we could even know if there was something.
Me neither. Which is why I don't have a reason to believe the claim in the Bible, because we have no way of knowing that. But you've concluded that the Bible was true, and you're saying that it's true because you believe that the universe came into existence and that something brought it to it.
Well, that's not why I believe the Bible's true. That has nothing to do with why I believe the Bible's true. That's an argument for the existence of a God. We have to have a whole nother conversation just to get to the God of the Bible.
But the But I think the question I asked you was, why do you believe
Mhm.
in the supernatural? And then you went to,
Mhm.
well, if the universe.
Yeah, well, I was I was trying to set it up because here's the deal. In going with the first thing I said, points to the fact that there has to be a God. There has to be something that's spaceless, timeless, immaterial, personal, powerful, that can put all this into existence. And whatever it is what I would call God. And so to think that thing, we'll call it God, can interact and allow things to happen, a supernatural event to happen, is reasonable in those premises. So if we can prove that God exists, then the supernatural is I mean, it's pretty much a moot point. Now, to get more specific to your question, though. So really and truly, I guess what you're really asking is, are there evidence for miracles that a supernatural thing like somebody rising from the dead, could that happen?
Actually, that
That
wasn't what I was. I mean, I'm happy to go there as well.
Mhm.
I was just trying to get to the baseline of supernatural and trying to figure out if we have reason to believe that there is such a thing as supernatural, because even the thing that causes the universe to come into existence, as far as I'm concerned, that would just be another natural thing. I don't know how you conclude that that's supernatural or that it would be a god. What if
Well, okay.
it's
What
part
makes
of nature?
what makes something natural?
So I define natural as basically anything that exists in the world that we occupy and that we see and interact with, and that's subject
Mhm.
to, some form of laws that,
Yeah.
we,